Have you wished to just chill in your bed, grab your controller, and just annihilate Path of Exile 2's endgame? Doing it as comfy as possible, not having to worry about min-maxing every single thing. Well, I mean, you can do that too, but choosing the Chronomancer, you can get around a lot of BS in the game, a lot of tedious and annoying things in the game without needing insane gear. And almost every build can work with it. Now, when you look at Chronomancer, it seems to be one of the least played specs, and I think that's because everyone's looking for damage, damage, damage. But Chronomancer's unique abilities that allow you to bypass mechanics of the game, allow you to play certain builds more efficiently that wouldn't be as efficient when you have like 500,000 monsters rushing to attack you. So, I'm going to show you a little bit about what this can do, and then we're going to talk about why I think Chronomancer is one of the best specializations for casual players to just completely obliterate maps with low investment. And the build right here, we're taking Chronomancer using Essence Drain Contagion and Dark Effigy. You guys probably seen the similar build like this last season with Liches, and before this, you may have seen Infernalists attempt to do this in patch 1.0, or point 1, I mean. So, what you can effectively do just to completely destroy entire maps is you can just sit here. You can start gathering every single enemy in the map. Get them all in one little section. Right? And then you can sit there and freeze time. Drop all your debuffs and just watch them explode. Look at that. Look at that. They're just going around and like, oh, freeze time. Do it again. Oh, look at that. The cooldown didn't hit. Do it again. You even have decent single target damage. Look at that. It's killing this guy. So like that's insane. And on top of that, oh, I only have I have no more time freezes. Wait. They're all back. I can do it again. So, something like this that has, I want to say, decent single target damage, an insane map clear, with the ability to stop opponents in their track, meaning that your deaths, those frustrating deaths that you guys are going to experience going through mapping, going through endgame, even Trials of Secumus and Trials of Chaos, this specialization, while it may clear maybe a little bit slower than a lot of other builds, it does not take that much effort to build and get through content. Would you rather a 50% chance to clear a map in 3 minutes, or like 99.99% chance to kill a map in like 6 minutes, right? Like, I'm just throwing out, random numbers, but that's basically how it is. Chronomancer is reliable, and it can get the job done. And we're going to try to take this and destroy all Pinnacle bosses, but I can guarantee you, from playing this game 600 hours, that this build can at least take you to tier 50 maps. And I'll put my money where my mouth is and show you guys that in upcoming videos. So, let's talk about how this build works. Alright, so let's show you guys the skills. And kind of explain what the purposes are and stuff like that. I'm going to talk about Time Snap first, just so you guys understand it. It just resets your cooldowns. That is it. That's going to come up later. So, Temporal Rift. What this does is allows you to go back in time. And, basically, whatever your health, mana, and energy shield values were, it will go back to the the oldest existent, right? So it's like these after image you see here, like I'm walking, you see the after image, I'll go back to it if I use a skill. And how this is useful is, yes, you can use it to like dodge and maneuver for things, but what this is like, if you're about to die, like you're in full HP and something hits you and you're like almost dead, you can use this to instantly go back to, full HP. You can also use this to like dodge certain boss mechanics, right? Like you can go run around, dodge over here, and then come back and fight the boss and position yourself. So it's really, really good. Really good defensive tool, right? So I personally love it a lot. and you're going to be using it. Trust me, you're going to be using it a lot to take a risky plays, right? You're going in for the kill, you're doing all this crazy stuff, and you just go back and retreat, and you're like, gotcha. While your DOTs just take them down. It is a DOT build. Time freeze. This is the main, in my opinion, the main reason why I love the class. I think this spell is completely broken. And if it wasn't for the fact that, at least from my testing, seems stun resistant enemies can fight through time freeze. They're not affected by it. So I'm assuming the enemies treat time freeze as a stun, which I guess technically it is. It doesn't really say it here, but maybe if I go into details, it will tell you or whatever. But this is what allows you to go around and completely, gather the entire map, as you saw I did earlier, freeze them, and then drop whatever combos you have. Because, it just allows a lot of safety. You can use it to retreat, like, oh no, I'm gonna die. Pick up your Divine Orb, freeze, and run for your life. You can even be as the troll, right? You can freeze, and then open up your portal right in front of all your enemies and say, see you later. It's got style. It's got style. I gotta tell you that. But no, it allows you to just completely cheese mechanics of the game, allows you to completely ignore everything, allows you to fake face tank everything. Really good. There's something to note, though, when using against bosses. Because most mobs are just going to die anyway, so you're not going to experience this. But you see right here, your time is halved. The duration is halved every time you stun them. So mine's is actually 4 seconds because of buffs I have. So basically, time freeze, if I stun a boss, it'll stun for 4 seconds. Then if I use it again before the 30-second timer is up on them, it's going to only stun for 2 seconds, and then 1 second, and so on. So it's not so broken to where you can just completely ignore the entire game. Because then that would be the best class in the world, right? Hands down. So it has to have a downside. But that's why I said, mapping is where most people die. You can fight bosses, understand their mechanics, and beat them. But dying to random nonsense on the map, some dude throwing a spear, some spider vomiting web on you, I don't know, some random archer shooting you from halfway across the river, stops all that nonsense. You don't have to deal with it. Freeze it all. We're going magnified area, so we freeze, in a bigger area. And this allows you to stop, other things that are not within your attack range and stuff like that, so that, it's safer. You don't really need magnified area. I'm testing it. It seems pretty good. We'll see how it goes from there. Second wind allows you to have 2 charges of this, because time freeze you only have 1 charge. You saw me had 2 charges there. It's because of second wind. So we have 40% more cooldown, but that doesn't matter with the build we're doing. Because of time snap, right? Resetting cooldown. But on top of that, we have cooldown recovery in case we want to save our time snap for something else. We don't want to use it. But time snap doesn't have. You may think it may not have a lot of value in this build because we only run 1 or 2 moves with cooldowns, right? Time freeze and temporal rift are the ones with cooldowns. But for mapping, it's really good. And then for bossing, we have a different style you want to approach. But yeah. So that's it for time freeze. I'm going to be testing more things. I literally just got out of the campaign and started mapping literally as, I wanted to push this out to, show you guys how good Chronomancers are. We went over time stop, resets cooldown, really good. Power Siphon, ignore it. That's just my wand and not important. And, when I'm talking about this, I'm going to talk about, you guys don't really know as much. I don't want, to confuse you guys with any Path of Exile 1 terms or 2 terms that you don't understand. So Essence Drain, right? This is your main damaging spell. It allows you... It's what you're trying to use to destroy waves of enemies. And it enables your other abilities to happen. So, before we go to Essence Drain, let's talk about Contagion. So Contagion, when an enemy dies with Contagion, as you can see, it will transfer the debuffs and damage over time spells and everything to the other enemies that are around it. And it deals 100% more damage, so it's multiplicative. So it is going to exponentially deal more damage, and it's going to be insane. And up to 300%, so you can't just keep doing it, otherwise it would be broken. So they capped at 300%, that's enough. Trust me, it's fine. So we're basically using Contagion to spread our Essence Drain. And depending on how you guys have your Essence Drain set up, you might drop your Contagion first, and then Essence Drain, or you might Essence Drain, then Contagion. That depends on your setup. I go Essence Drain first, then Contagion, and I'll show you why. So we're using Chain. Chain allows us to split the Essence Drain into multiple enemies, so that you have a higher chance of hitting what was hit by Contagion. So that's what it was. I would stick with chain 2. I know chain 3, it says 300% more chain, but I don't have a gem to use to test it. So for now, I would just stick with 2. But yeah, 40% less damage on hits. Well, you don't guys have to worry about that, right? Because your main damage comes from the DOT. So you're not really hitting the opponent, per se. You know, it's not like you're launching Fireball, right? So you're not losing much from Chain. Swift Affliction deals more damage. Pretty good. Intense Agony. This is what I mean by if you're using Essence Drains first. I am launching it first a lot of times. You know, and it doesn't really matter, but you do want to get in the habit of doing it. If you do have Intense Agony, you see there's 50% more damage on full life enemies. So that's pretty good. And then rapid casting, fast casting. You just want to get it out, right? Drop it real quick. Watch enemies die. Contagion. We're going to unleash. This allows us to hit multiple enemies with contagion, so that our essence drain hits. You know, whatever our essence drain hit, the contagion has a high chance of hitting. Vice versa. Chaotic freeze. We're going to talk about this, but this is how you troll bosses and elites. But basically, hits against damage over time, like hits against targets taking damage over time, contributes to freeze. So you can actually freeze them if you do hits. Now, your DOTs ticking down are not hits. So it's not that broken, but we'll explain why it's going to work when we talk about Dark Effigy. Rapid casting, we're taking advantage of the fact that they're letting us use multiple support gems of the same type on different support skills. So you just want to drop your stuff. You know, drop, keep going, keep moving to the next pack of enemies. A lot of the issues with Essence and Contagion is we don't have enough cast speed. It feels very clunky because while you're trying to drop things, the enemies are going to beat the crap out of you. Which, by the way, doesn't really happen with the Chronomancer, does it? So you don't really need as much cast speed. I still would advise it just to get things done faster. It feels smoother. Magnified area. This is so that it can jump in a wider range, right? If you have two enemies that are like 3 inches apart and one that's 4 inches apart, you want it to at least jump to the 4-inch one as well, right? You just want it to jump farther so that you don't have to waste your time casting more spells. Dark Effigy. This is your bossing skill. This is how you deal with bosses, right? And it's going to get insane later on once we get some insane gear. But this is what I was talking about, Contagion, right? So when the Dark Effigy hits the opponent or the enemy that are taking damage over time because of the Chaotic Freeze, they're going to build up, you know, the Frozen debuff. So they're going to get frozen. It's going to be really good. It's going to keep them in place. It's going to just keep bosses in place. And, you know, I remember testing this last patch in Pinnacle bosses. You know, the very high level, like Arbiter, it was a little bit tricky to freeze him, but because it was so frequent, he eventually got frozen. So we'll see how it is now. We can worry about that later. But, you know, we're just taking advantage of the Chaotic Freeze, right? Like, you just want that early game power so that you can at least, you know, get up to tier 15 maps. Rapid casting. Oh, sorry. Concentrated area. We're talking about why Dark Effigy was good. But concentrated area, we don't care about AoE damage for Dark Effigy. So, more damage. Cold Control Destruction, we don't crit. More damage. Rapid casting, because you got to launch your other abilities first before Dark Effigy works. So for Dark Effigy, I forgot to explain this, but for it to actually attack, the opponent needs damage over time debuffs on them. And the more damage over time debuffs are on them, the faster Dark Effigy shoots out of them. So if you notice, whenever there's a bunch of them with damage over time, it shoots really, really fast. So rapid casting, you know, you're going to get more cast speed for Dark Effigy. For it to cast, it's a projectile. So you gotta drop Essence Ray Contagion, then maybe a Curse, and then Dark Effigy, boom, or Time Snap Dark Effigy. You know, I don't know if if Time Freeze is considered it. I would have to actually test it, but definitely Essence Ray Contagion. Urgent Totems 3. This is really strong, right? Because of the way we play the game, the way the totems are set up. It allows your totems to be placed really quick. And I say totems, right? That's going to be really insane when we talk about how we can improve this build against bosses. Because I just started, right? Just imagine, like, 2 days from now, I have like insane items, right? Or what you would hope. So that is how the Urgent Totem is there to just place the totems really quickly, and it gets some benefits. You see, you got spells cast by an attacks created by totems, used by totems created by sword skills. You know, they have 20% more increased attack speed. It just means the totems are going to attack faster. That's all it really is. Best way to put it. Don't overthink it. Withering Presence. We do chaos damage. So what's good for chaos damage? Withering Presence. It's just that good, right? If you guys want to know what it does, basically it applies, increased chaos damage taken up to 10 times, and this can be changed through the passive tree as well. Despair. This is our curse. Every spell has a resistance down curse type of thing. So this is what despair is for us. But we're going one step further. We're turning our despair into a damage over time spell. And you saw when I was showing you guys how I kill this pack of mobs, you saw them exploding. That is coming from a despair, but impending doom. Trigger Doom Blast when curses from supportive enemies, from when it expires. But it treats the death as expiration. So that's why it blows up. So, but yeah, Heightened Curse increases the magnitude, right? And to understand magnitude, it just means the value of the core value that it's talking about. So this curse core value is 40% chaos resistant. Because we have increased magnitude with Heightened Curse, you're going to see here that we have a 60% chaos resistant removed. And that can be further buffed by whatever gear, passive tree, whatever you have. Decaying Hex, we talked about it. It turns our despair into a damage over time spell that does chaos damage, which will then be affected by Dark Effigy. So that's really good there, and the higher intelligence you have, the more damage it will do. Impending Doom, we talked about as well as blowing things up. It's pretty cool. And in efficiency, because you don't want to use all your mana on this, we use efficiency to reduce the cost. As you can see right now, the mana cost is 169. Look what happens when I take away the efficiency. That mana cost is now... Oh, it's still 169? Huh. I gotta relook that then. I thought it was lowering the cost. Interesting. I'll have to look into it. But I had put that originally to lower the cost. And it's still 169? I guess so. Well, I guess it doesn't do anything. Well, I guess you don't need that. Interesting. Also, there's one thing you can do, though. If you think you're using too much mana with Despair, you can put Life Tap. It's a support gem that turns the cast cost into health instead. So it doesn't use your mana up. But, you're playing a sorcerer. You're fine. Use your mana. You're not a blood mage. Don't be a wannabe blood mage. But yeah. Efficiency was supposed to do so. Oh, I read that wrong. Supporting any skill making it cost less to use. Oh, no, never mind. Maybe it does work. I mean, we'll test it. We'll test it later. Ravenous Swarm. So this is interesting, right? So poison is considered a damage over time debuff. So I originally last patch, I used to put poison as on a perfect Jewel's Orb, I used to put poison on Dark Effigy. But they gave us Ravenous Swarm, which automatically poisons enemy. And you don't care about its damage, you just want the poison on the enemy to show that it's a damage over time. And then we're using Escalating Poison, just to add some extra damage. It counts as 2 poison stacks. It might not be worth it, but I'm testing for it. It's pretty cool. But the main point is Ravenous Storm from poison. Prolonged duration, so it stays on them longer, and magnified area, so it jumps, jumps further on. Like, it can get something farther away, so you have to, stick right up to it. But yeah, that is basically all the builds. But yeah, because, get it, poison them, Despair, damage over time, Contagion, damage over time, Essence Drain, damage over time, Contagion spreads all of this to other enemies, and Dark Effigy finished the job against tankier mobs. So that is the skills. Let's take a look at the passive tree, and then you can understand how crazy Chronomancer can get. So, I'm just going to briefly go over it so you can just see it. Like I said, next video, I'm going to properly set up everything so that I can just import my stuff for you guys. But basically, you go over here, you get chaos damage. You go over here, you get chaos damage. You go over here, you get chaos damage. You run all the way over here, you get chaos damage. You get chaos damage. You get chaos damage, extra chaos damage. Oh, that's something to note, guys, that when you see this stuff as gain 11% damage to extra chaos damage, this is only going to affect your dark effigy. This will not affect your damage over time spells. It only works on spells that actually hit the opponent, and damage over time spells do not count so, unless they have initial hit. Like Fireball can, maybe do damage over time through Ignite, but it originally is just a spell that hits the enemy. Our defensive capabilities, we came over here, we grabbed this. And then because we're getting our totem, we made it over here to grab, damage, increase life, all that stuff over here for the totems. This is going to be a rough overview. Like I said, there'll be a true build guide later. But let's talk about this, right? Why Chronomancer? Well, no matter what, you do, look, buff require 10% slower. Temporal Rift, that's the one that lets us, the footspin and stand thing. It lets you go back in time, get your stuff back. 10% slower, and time freeze. This, you may think this is unnecessary, right? Like, why would you need to keep resetting? But like I said, it's for mapping. If you're not mapping, you don't need this. And you can get this right here. If you're fighting bosses, you can get Inevitable Agony, right? This, will affect the effigy. So you drop this down, and your effigy will now do a lot more damage. The downside here, though, unfortunately, is the fact that you can't really use 2 curses at once, at least not for now. So what you can do is maybe, you're going to have to put Despair on an aura and then run this. And then you're probably going to have to pick up this right here, but double the delay activation curse. I'm not using that for right now. Once we get the pinnacle bosses, we will test to see if we really, test to see how that goes. But for now, we are doing this. But yes, that Intense Agony, as you can see, it does do a lot of damage, or like anything that hits them. So since Dark Effigy is like throwing literally missile shooting them with chaos damage and it counts as hits, it's going to store up that damage and then does it when the curse expires, right? 31% of the damage dealt to them while cursed is dealt again. So, and taking damage again this way cannot inflict ailments on the cursed target. So, unfortunate there, but at least that doesn't matter for our Dark Effigy. But for now, we're just using this side going all the way down here for the time snap to keep mapping easily. And this is also the insane part. Skills have a 33% chance to not consume a cooldown. So what does that mean, right? Now you guys are starting to see the picture, right? Temporal Rift, but use it, it could 33% chance that it doesn't go on cooldown. Time freeze, same thing. Time snap, same thing. So time snap doesn't go on cooldown, then you could time freeze, do whatever, keep moving, then time snap again, time freeze, do whatever, keep on moving. Right? Insane in my opinion. Right? Maybe I'm overreacting, guys. Like Path of Exile has been my first ARPG, and I just love trying to create builds and trying to cook because it's just so fun. I've never played any RPG before, and this, I've literally synced 600 hours in this game, and the last 2 leagues, I played literally 500 to almost 550 hours of Blood Mages. I played 8 different Blood Mages, different builds and stuff. So I was just trying to cook really hard. But this league, I wanted to do Chronomancer. I wanted to bring this to you guys, right? I let Chronomancers rise up so that we can get some love, right? Understand the class, see, give Jonathan that feedback so that maybe he can figure out a better way to improve it. Or maybe later on, when we get more classes, Chronomancer becomes insane because more skills will have cooldowns. Currently, it's like I said, it's its own skills. It's stuff like Flame Strike, things that have cooldowns, like Hammer of the Gods, right? People did that. Hammer of the Gods is like this huge hitting skill the warrior has. You can reset the cooldown on that. So, I don't know. I love Chronomancer, but yeah, that's basically the build. in terms of that. So let's talk about what I was talking about, how insane things can get later on. All right, so you're probably wondering, well, how did he get two totems? Totem has one limit. Like, what's going on? Like, how's he throwing out all these totems? Well, there's a couple ways of doing that. For me specifically, I use the league mechanic, and that's how it got it. I didn't make this. I got this from trade. Some guy was selling it for one exalt. I got it literally on like day 3 because I already had this build in mind, and I just kept it in my inventory. Then I don't know how much it is now. But see, spell skills have +1 maximum number of summoned totems. Now that's like the best way of getting it. But there are other ways to get it. So if you have a lot of spirit, right? Your chest piece, a lot of spirit. You have spirit here, like on your necklace. You get literally 160 spirit, 120 spirit from what do you call it? From the campaign when you finish everything. So you can come over here, since we're already getting, these damage nodes for our totem. You come over here and grab Ancestral Bond. This allows you, and this is what I plan to do later when I get more spirit, is this will allow me to, maybe I can use a scepter and summon like 3 totems. So that's like, what am I doing? But that's like a heavy end game way, right? So you're like, okay, man, like I gotta invest all this, I gotta get all the spirit, or I gotta get lucky or buy an item. Well, there's actually a cheaper way of getting a second limit, and that is this skill support gem right here. It's called, if I can find it, Overabundance. It's what, yeah, support skills have +1 limit, but they have 50% less skill effect duration. So it means you do that insane damage, but it's in short bursts now. It's like half the time, which I didn't want, so that's why I got that in, ahead of time. If you have an extra 150 spirit laying around, you can take the spirit route. But that's how you do it. Overabundance, that'll let you do it. When I get another support gem, like a perfect Jewel's Orb, I can test it here, put it here as the last slot for Dark Effigy, and put 3 totems down and just watch it go all out. Like, 2 totems is already insane in my opinion, but just imagine that 3rd totem. Like, you guys, you can even get rid of, if you really want, you can get rid of like rapid casting and try it out and see how it goes. I'm fine. I'm content with 2 totems for right now. So that is how, like, you can increase your single target damage with bosses. Is either you get a lot of spirit, either through items or using overabundance. The rest of this, it's just basic gear, like level 43, level 43. These are a little bit better gear, but not anything too crazy. Now, in this build, I want to last leave with like how, because damage over time spells are generally, driven by spell power, you benefit a lot from +1 level. So that's why I have here +4 levels of chaos spells. You can try to craft one yourself. These are fairly cheap. Like anything with a +4 spell, like forget everything else you see here. This is like a more ideal wand. But like +4 spells, you want to look for plus spells, right? And you don't even have to, like, if you don't have a focus with this, right? You can find a focus with like +1 spell or something, or +2 spell. So then you're getting like +6 spell, right? And later on, right, like I was looking at like the trading market just to see like how high these pluses get, right? The chaos spells, it's like +6 the chaos spell. So it gets insane, and that's how you ramp up the damage really quickly. And that's going to be very important when playing an Essence Drain Contagion build, in my opinion, because the damage over time, like, you're different from everyone else. You have delayed damage compared to like a lot of the other classes, but I think it's very safe. Also, the reason why this build is really nice is it does not have a lot of screen clutter. So I hope this was cool. This is like the first preview of my Chronomancer, and we're gonna roll with it to the end. We're not gonna stop till we get to Arbiter and kill him. We're gonna show him who the Master of Time is. So, I'm the Gotcha Cultivator, and I hope we'll catch you guys on the next Path of Exile 2 video.